Hey, what's going on YouTube? Today I'm going to be kind of just going over the League starter build that I'm going to be doing in 3.21 Crucible. In particular, I wanted to mention and shout out Arrow for coming up with the original idea in 2019, or at least making it the budget-friendly version. And then, yeah, we've made some changes to it because of the reservation and mastery updates. The build doesn't really function as it did in 2019. There was the removal of Replica Conqueror's efficiency. There was the removal of efficiency passive nodes. So we have had to make a few changes that some people would consider a little higher budget. But still, this is a build that can be made on a casual player's friendly budget. So with that in mind, let's get right on into it then. So we are leveling the Trickster, and this is Spectral Shield Throw is our specific skill. So if we go to our skills, we have Spectral Shield Throw, which has Cold Pen, Elemental Damage with attacks, Inspiration, Fork, and Energy Leech. It's your base damage at additions, and then a little bit of leech on your energy shield because we are focusing on having a good base amount of energy shield as well as having some life to play around with. But yeah, we are focusing on energy shield because it's working best, especially with the masteries coming out with evasion rating in particular and spell suppression. So yeah, we're adding energy leech into the build itself. Now, this build is supposed to be an all-arounder. It's supposed to be good at clearing. It's supposed to have decent damage for early maps, and it's supposed to be able to withstand and hold defense true to itself and be able to get probably, honestly, you could probably hit red maps to some degree with this build. But yeah, this is basically just a League starter. So do also keep that in mind. Moving on, originally this helmet had precision instead of enlighten. Now we're running a level 4 enlighten because of the reservation changes. Of course, I'll go over the masteries and the skill tree, but this has we have been able to up our damage because of this, because we've been taking new masteries. But at the cost, we have had to move precision down in levels, and we had to put it on a different part of the gear set. Then we have our weapon. We have Ancestral Protector, Frostbomb, Blood Rage. These are just generally good side abilities or second base abilities that can help you kind of improve your bossing damage, as well as sometimes your clear speed and your leech. So Blood Rage is best for leech. Frostbomb is more based on bossing, but also it's just good for clearing low health mobs or just like leftover mobs to keep pushing forwards. And then Ancestral Protector is, I mean, if you've been around this game, you know Ancestral Protector is a great combat buff, but it's also a great player buff as well. So just having the Ancestral Protector attacking, good for bossing, but it also grants additional attack speed, which is just like can push a build past a limit. So very good for basically no investment except for having the skill. Then on our gloves, we're using our travel skill of Shield Charge. I do like Shield Charge a lot, but Shield Charge struggles with going up and downhill. So if you have a need for something that can traverse walls or go up and downhill, and by up and downhill I mean ledges, like ledges that you can't just walk through, but you can dash over. Shield Charge does not allow you to do that, so I will explain that in a second. As to how, if this does bother you, what you can do instead. We want Shield Charge because it is a good DPS addition as well. Since we're using Spectral Shield Throw, having a good push on shield focus is important. So then we're adding Fortify and faster attacks to make it so that we can cast Shield Charge faster and have defensive capabilities with it, so that if we run into a pack of mobs with Shield Charge, we're not insta-killing ourselves by mistake. And then we have Power Charge on crit, which is just kind of our way of getting power charges generated to some degree. Then we have our boss kill buttons, as well as our defensive layers, or one of our defensive layer, and then precision. So we had Val Haste in this weapon slot. We've moved it, and then we put precision here. So we have Berserk Steelskin Precision in our first weapon, and then we have Sniper's Mark, Mark on Hit, Val Haste in our boots, and then we have an open skill gem slot. So in that slot is where you would put a dash skill of whatever you prefer. It could be Flame Dash if you have the int for it, but I genuinely think that you should be running dash in this skill slot as your fourth on boots. It's a dex based skill gem. It's quite efficient. It's just generally good. Plus, you're not trying to buff the damage of your travel skill in the slot, so it really is just a quality of life. You would use shield charge as your main travel skill, and then you'd use dash to traverse walls and ledges. So going over to the tree, before we get into the gear, I wanted to express that the POB will be in the description, so don't worry about that. But the tree has generally stayed the same from the 2019 edition, except we have made a jewel change, and then we have also made a few mastery changes. Some of the new masteries, these masteries have remained the same, but we have changed Mark Mastery to increased accuracy rating against marked enemies. We've also changed Projectile Mastery to 1% increased projectile damage per 16 dexterity. We've also changed the Accuracy Mastery to plus 500 accuracy and minus 2 accuracy rating per level. Now this could potentially be better if you, depending on your dex stat, to do dex accuracy instead. Now, at the moment, where my accuracy or where my dexterity is, it's granting plus 300. It's plus like 300.1 accuracy, and then this is also granting plus 300. So I would say use this accuracy mastery, especially while leveling, because it'll be better. But if you get your dex to a point where it's high enough to switch over and it makes it better, then I would switch over. Crit mastery is the same. Spell suppression, we are now using suppressed spell damage cannot inflict elemental ailments on you because our suppress cap, or because our spell suppression chance is 100%. We are focusing on the elemental evasion in the spell suppression mastery, especially because crit chance has been removed. So that's what we're doing there. We've changed the flask mastery to gain on crit strike. We've changed elementary mastery or elemental mastery to 25% chance to treat enemy monster resistance as inverted. This is just a very good damage boost with no investment. And then we have evasion mastery, which is increased evasion rating of body armor. If you can go through the masteries, this one seems to be the best based off of what I'm seeing. Arguably, cannot be stunned if you haven't been hit recently. Could be good as well. That's more of a quality of life thing. So yeah, take that as you will. Since you're trying not to get hit, like getting cannot be stunned doesn't really affect you, because if you're getting hit, you're probably getting killed pretty quickly at that point. So we're taking the equipped body armor evasion mastery here. Reservation mastery stays the same. The evasion and energy shield mastery, we're now using every 4 seconds regenerate energy shield equal to 1% of evasion rating over 1 second. This is just a good defensive layer, and feels like, based off of our new options, feels to be the best, but arguably 30% increased evasion rating while you have energy shield would be good. This is kind of a trial and error thing. This is going to be based on kind of a quality of life aspect and kind of a feel. I'm going to need to actually be in game and experience this for myself to tell you if it's correct. So if it doesn't feel effective, do change it to whatever you think is best. But I think this is valuable, but again, we'll see. 10% of life leech is instant. This is a fantastic mastery. I think if you're building a leech build, you should be taking this. It's a great defensive layer. It helps with instant life gain. It helps with rapid attacks. So yeah, definitely take the new leech mastery. And then in life mastery, we're taking skills cost life instead of 30% of mana cost to reduce. Since we're doing leech, we can reduce the mana cost and put it into our life a little bit. And as long as you're not running a map that says you cannot leech, then this is just a huge boost on mana efficiency, which, since the reservations were pulled, is a huge help. And yeah, that's generally it for jewels. Here we'll go to items. For jewels, we're running a couple of rare jewels, which are very craftable and not difficult to make. We're using increased max life, crit multi, increased global accuracy. We're using added life, added energy shield, and crit multi. And then we're using crit multi, added energy shield, and mana reservation. And then we're using Seething Fury, which is like a 1 chaos unique jewel. Very cheap, but very effective in a build where we're focusing on getting the highest energy shield and best shield that we can kind of get, because that boosts the relative damage of a spectral shield throw. For our weapon, we're using Dream Feather because it increases our attack damage based on our evasion rating. It's easy to find. It's generally a cheap weapon to buy, so very budget friendly, very effective weapon. For our shield, we're just kind of using a general stun and block recovery, and then some extra energy shield and chance to suppress, as well as some evasion rating. This is super budget friendly and craftable, but eventually you would want to change this to the unique, which is called Emperor's Vigilance Steel Kite Shield. And here, I'll throw it on the screen for you. As you can see, these are 3 months ago, but see online, like, even it's 10 chaos. This is a cheap shield, and it's considered best in slot for the spectral shield throw. So do look out for this weapon, or sorry, this shield, I guess. That's what you want to replace with your weapon when you can. But this is supposed to be a league start, very, very budget friendly, and like something that you can make without even like spending a chaos orb, basically. Of course, that's, if you're playing Trade League, that's kind of impossible. A 1 chaos build doesn't really exist, but this is generally like a farmable. You can make this with, if you have the knowledge, you could make this on solo self-found. Like, this is very easy to make. Then we got a rare helmet, which generally what you're looking for is just int, so that you can fill out your int requirements, and then energy shield. And then, you can fill it with whatever other mods you want, but these are the important mods. And then getting Spectral Shield Throw fires 3 additional shard projectiles through Labyrinth eventually is a very good damage boost. And we have Queen of the Forest, which is just really good for move speed in particular, and a great defensive layer as well. It adds to a lot of your resistances. A good roll is very nice, although hard to come by. So, depending on your budget, you can focus on upping or lowering the resistances that you get off of this. But the build has functional overcap elemental resistance without this, so you can get cheap ones and not worry about it. And then we have our rare gloves, which is just more spell suppression and fizz converted to cold. Now, I'm pretty sure you could do fizz converted to whatever you want. We're just trying to pull some of that effective max hit off of the fizz max hit pool and put it somewhere else, because like any evasion based build, fizz damage is kind of our kryptonite, so we do want to try and push that somewhere else. And for the affordable price of free on a craft, why not? Or I think it's like a 4 chaos, or it might even be like, it might be a 1 exalt craft, but it's worth it. Trust, it's worth it. And then we're just doing max life as well. We want the gain 1 rage on hit with attacks, no more than once every 1.2 seconds. We're basically using that so that we have Berserk active, and that helps with our boss damage in particular. So this is gain 1 rage on hit with attacks, I think is a Eldritch modifier. So we want that, and then we want physical damage converted to cold, which in tandem with hatred is going to help boost our damage. And then for our boots, we just want some evasion, some max life, some move speed. That's about it. And then, whatever other modifiers you can find, maybe some res, maybe, just general good boots. You could craft these very easy. And then we have our amulet, which we want to have Gladiator's Perseverance as the anointment. We want it to be in a gate amulet for strength and int to help, fuel our requirements, and then we're also having added strength, crit multi, level of all skill gems, max life. This might be the hardest craft to pull off, but it's well worth the investment. Having the crit multi plus level of all skill gems is huge for your damage. So, and it's great for your defensive layers too, because this also buffs your auras. And if you consider it, if you're not buying level 21 gems, this is basically your way of making level 21 gems. So instead of buying all these level 21 gems, you can just buy this one amulet and it kind of does the same effect. So it's worth getting a +1 level of all amulet. And then we have our diamond ring, which is just helps with our crit chance. And then we have accuracy, max life, energy shield, and then crafted on non-channeling. So crafted on non-channeling can be found through Syndicate and through the June missions, but you can also just go to the market and buy Elrond's unveiled gloves and or sorry, not gloves, but rings, and unveil them to get the craft. That's an easy way of getting the craft without farming for it. And these gloves, I mean, early league they sell for like 5 to 10 C, but around like a, give it like a week in, or even you could go on TFT and like find someone who's giving away free crafting bench options as long as you just pay the crafting cost. Yeah, so there's multitudes of ways of getting non-channeling skills, so don't worry about that. It's very easy to get. And then we're doing Mark of the Elder, which can be farmed by fighting the Elder boss. And this is really just a good DPS buff for cheap. It's a very budget unique, since people farm a lot of the Elder and Shaper and Uber Elder, or the Elder plus Shaper boss fights. Like this gets spat out constantly because people are farming for Watcher's Eyes. So this does end up decreasing in price drastically. Getting a high roll on increased attack damage if your other ring is a Shaper item is kind of the roll you want to have be at least decent. And also do note that this will be kind of the roll that drives the price of the item. Also, it gives you cannot be stunned by attacks if your other ring is an Elder item, which we're not using that aspect. We're using the Shaper item aspect. So don't worry about that, but do keep in mind that that's not going to affect your ring unless you have a Shaper plus Elder ring. And then we have Replica Soul Tether, which is just a great... it's like a pseudo headhunter in a degree. Obviously, you'd rather have a headhunter here, but Replica Soul Tether gives you Corrupted Soul, which is like when you kill an enemy and you see that little red line go to another enemy, that's Corrupted Soul. It basically, you're sapping power from enemies that you kill. And then it also gives you +30 strength, which is great. For our flasks, we're using Blast of the Dove with increased attack speed. We're using Jade Flask with increased evasion, Diamond Flask with increased move speed. Taste of Hate, which is probably the most expensive part of this build, is the Taste of Hate flask. And then we're using the Silver Flask with immunity to Corrupted Blood. So this is a budget way of getting Corrupted Blood immunity. Of course, you can try to get it on your jewel instead, but again, do keep in mind this is a very budget-friendly version of the build. Yeah, with that being said, that's the kind of the gears, the skills, the tree. You can go check out the POB for yourself. It'll be down below. Shout out to Arrow for making the POB first. I know he has a bunch of nope, he has no notes. Never mind. I figured he'd have some notes, but he doesn't have any notes. But yeah, shout out to Arrow for the original build from 2019, and I hope you guys enjoy running Spectral Shield Throw as a league start. The reason I'm doing it is because I was challenged to it, and I had a lot of fun kind of messing around with the new 3.21 POB fork and changing some things around to make it friendly for this league. And I hope these changes have brought you some enjoyment, I guess. This is the worst outro ever. Yeah. Have at it, boys. See you in the league.